All right. Technical difficulties. Scott ain't here. You get what you fucking pay for. My name's Caleb Salvatore. I am filling in for him. I'm going to flash my shit down at the bottom real quick. You want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Caleb Isn't Funny. I'm also on TikTok now like Caved. Yes, you can report me as a sex offender. I'm here. I'm guest hosting for Drunk and Disorderly here. Dre, Aaron, we're with Kash Jackson and Chris Cole. How you motherfuckers doing tonight?
What's happening?
Oh,
fantastic.
God. I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys? It's so nice to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see all of you.
Good.
Kash, how have you been, man? It's been forever.
I don't know. Can he?
We have a delay or something.
Can he not hear you?
Kash is on a delay. He's getting older.
Is that what it is?
Did you hear her ask you a question?
Yeah.
This is gonna be good.
Expand, Jeff. Do you like the music?
I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in Podunk, Arkansas.
I'm in Nebraska. The whole state is the middle of nowhere. I still have decent internet connection.
So, man,
that was like five different,
right? When we go live,
4 different questions and statements at one time. I got none of that.
I think they all came to you at the same time.
You did. You did. Yeah. You guys like quad fucked me.
Someone says Kash has AOL dial-up. That's
what the free market has down here, man.
So I mean, I am totally unprepared for this. I got thrown into it last second, like most things in my life. I'm totally going to leave questions and interviewing up to Dre and Aaron. I'll mediate. If you guys start acting fools, I'll jump in. But yeah,
Caleb's our bouncer.
I had to do that 2 weekends ago. I don't want to do it again.
You're good at it, though, brother.
What's that?
You're good at it.
At being a bouncer?
You're a good mediator.
Not so good at the bouncing.
He's a good mediator. I mean, Caleb mediates in troll style, right? He's like, "What the fuck did you say? Here, let me tell you a joke."
I'm ready. Are we talking issues?
Yeah, we're live.
What are we doing?
We're live. Talk issues. What issues?
Smoke, talk issues.
Yep, drink, smoke, talk issues for everybody watching.
I'm drinking water in case. I'm drinking water.
Well, Chris Cole invited me, so I'm gonna have to leave it to Chris Cole. I kind of default to that guy.
Well, I reached out to Dre. Because Adam was on the show, and I saw the podcast. Adam Kokesh was on the show, and we started Victims of Family Law when Adam was running for president, and that's how the whole thing got started. So I thought this would be a good libertarian conversation. Let's talk about family law for all these libertarians who seem to have an issue with it, but we're trying to get it on the platform. We're trying to make it the libertarian issue to talk about, because it's an issue of issues.
Right. I was going to ask, so tell everybody, what are the biggest issues with family court right now? Because you see a lot of younger people saying they don't want to get married because they eventually don't want to have to deal with family court. That's a huge thing right now. It's a huge, thing against marriage right now. And I think that's sad.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is because I think the government's hands is in every aspect of it. So every marriage becomes a asset issue, and now we've made our children assets as well. And when you have a marriage that may not end in a peaceful way, and there's hurt feelings, or maybe you had kids with a person that really isn't that emotionally healthy.
You guys must be waiting for me to chime in. I was waiting for Chris Cole to get done talking.
And I'll defer to Kash in a minute. But so basically what happens is
as Chris said earlier, that this issue number one, I think it needs to be driven to the mainstream. We've got over 25% of our country, 25%.
So
I love American technology.
We do have some people watching, shockingly, Chris, who are unfamiliar with you, who are unfamiliar with Kash. So
Okay.
if you can give our viewers kind of, number one, a little rundown of who both of you are, and why you got involved with the issue, of kind of what spurred that would be awesome. I know that Kash and I were talking a whole lot at our national convention when we were in Orlando. The plan was to try to put forth a platform on this. Correct. And then platform got cut short, right? Got completely.
Yeah, we tried to pull off a Hail Mary pass, and I think we were being a little ambitious, and that's fine because we got to ask a lot of questions about how to do it in the future. And we're hoping in 22 in Las Vegas that we'll get to enter in a platform adjustment on I think it's plank 6.1, parental rights. And one of the biggest issues that I think libertarians should take up, and I'll go ahead and tell you the reason I'm a libertarian today is because the government and family law, the family law issues as far as having to go to custody court, and fathers don't have rights until they basically buy them back. After separation. The whole child support setup and welfare setup was set up to help primarily mothers for deadbeat dads. And what we don't talk about is what creates deadbeat dads. And originally it was the war on drugs and poverty. It was more predominantly in, let's say, in the Black community, and it sort of moved itself over. I'd say with the Child Support Act, No Child Left Behind, these sort of policies that have come forth that have basically given the mom predominantly custody and made dad the financial provider. And even in 2020, we're starting to stand on closer to equal footing, where men are not all off fighting wars. We want to raise our children. But unfortunately, in order to raise your kids, most kids are being born out of wedlock. About 40%. When I say most, so close to half. Yeah, 40% of children are being born out of wedlock. And going back to the divorce issue, no one wants to get married because then it gets nasty. And men don't want to get married, no offense, ladies, because we typically get screwed financially. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes the women are making more these days, but
sometimes the women just get screwed even if they make less.
So sure. Let's go back to this, because I think you're missing a really critical early component of how some of these systems came into play and why they came into play. So when we're talking about the welfare system, the child support system, all of these things coming into play, there was a bigger push behind that, like a long time ago, right? So this was a move from the left. It was a move from the Democrats. And basically what they did is they came into these urban areas. That was where the initial targets were. And they said where they saw poverty, right? Because of things like the war on drugs, because of racial inequality, because of systematic institutional racism, and all kinds of, we could have that conversation for an hour, right? They came in and said, we'll help you, to these mothers, we'll help you, but you have to divorce him.
Right.
That's where the culture shift started. And men of color in particular they wear this big, huge label, deadbeat dad, whether they have kids or not, whether they are deadbeat or not. That's where it started. And it was government created. It was created as a control measure.
Right.
It was created to put more people on the dole, because you're not going to vote away your livelihood, right?
Right. So it's creating a dependency. It's weakening the family. It's creating a dependency on government, more social programs, more welfare. You're creating, and ladies, I can tell that you're both very independent women, but we're creating a welfare culture, and it's disguised as independence. So these moms are having kids, and essentially they're birthing paychecks, so to speak.
And ladies, let me tell you why they targeted women. Let me tell you why it was this move and why it was targeted at women, why they came in and said, we'll help you, but you have to meet our conditions. It's because the government thinks that women are easier to control and subdue.
Right.
That's why women were targeted. That's why men were painted as the bad guy. If the shoe had been on the other foot, we would be talking about this exact same issue, but places would be flipped. It's because the state thinks and believes that women are easier to manipulate and control. That's just the way it is.
Because of what? Primarily, I would say, a lot of people say men are emotional because we get angry, but women are typically more emotion driven.
That probably, there's probably a lot of it is just the systematic misogyny that's been around since the revolution.
Well, yeah, trying to flip the power dynamic.
Right.
When this was all happening, most women did not work outside the home. That was a rarity when this was going on. So
when it started, it was illegal for most women to work outside the home. This has been ongoing.
Cash.
I just wanted to make sure everyone knew where he went. He didn't get mad at us and leave.
He was trying to call me.
So look, Cash is looking for a call-in number. Caleb, I don't know if we have a way to do that, but if we do, can we get him a phone number?
That would be
he can call me on my cell phone, but I'm not giving that over out over the live stream. There's too many weirdos out there.
Like DM it, man.
Best way to call in is to just post something that makes us want to interact, like in the comments.
Can you message him, Caleb? Can you message him on Facebook?
I don't think I have him on Facebook.
Just message Chris your number.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send it in the thing.
Yeah, send it to me and then I'll forward it to him.
Or send it to
Call
me.
me on my side. Dude, this is gonna be I'm literally gonna hold my speakerphone up to the mic, and that's okay, we'll give it a shot.
Well, hopefully his cell service is better than his fucking internet.
Man, of course don't operate like it's still 1942. They operate like it's 1842 and shit.
Exactly.
This is some King George shit.
So while we're waiting on Cash, okay, cool. I just got that. Yeah, let me send that to him. Hold on one sec.
Someone said they formed the NRA to protect gun rights. Where's that's a bad example because the NRA just sells us out.
Yeah.
But I understand the point.
There to protect family rights, right? So Adam was the American, some fucked up acronym for a foundation that was painted as being pro father's rights in divorces, but they've been incredibly ineffective. They've been around most of my lifetime, right? There are organizations, but those organizations, the majority of them are either ineffective or on the dole, and you got to follow the money.
Right.
Definitely.
Sorry, I'm going to join the conversation. We're working out technical
someone's
things.
calling me in Arkansas. Here we go. I hope this is him and not a scammer. All right. Hello?
In Arkansas.
It's a scammer.
All right. Can you guys hear him talking? Go ahead and talk.
Got me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working. Can you hear us?
Check this out.
Oh, Jesus.
Did we still have a delay, for fuck's sake?
Yep, I'm here.
He can hear you. I think the delay is really bad.
Or maybe he can't hear us. He can't hear us, can he? Because you got your headphones on.
He's watching on his computer.
Oh, but see,
it's just
a
delay.
We're a delay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be a delay. That's not going to help.
That might make it worse.
You can throw up another
I'm just going to talk to you over the phone, so.
He's going to talk.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can hear him.
Yeah, no, we can all hear him. I'm just trying to whatever it was you were going to say, though, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're making some magnificent points, and at the end of the day, look, this is predominantly why I believe the Libertarian Party is the best poised, and this is the this is the issue that nobody's discussing that I think stands to propel the Libertarian Party to a greater forefront within mainstream politics when they begin articulating exactly how the system works.
Right.
This is not a states' rights issue. We just heard Tom Cotton up on there in Congress proposing federal legislation to increase child support on non-custodial parents, and he specifically calls out fathers. Tom Cotton's a fucking warhawk rhino, and if he had any respect for the veteran community whatsoever, he would have enough intelligence to have researched and understood the correlation between family courts and veteran suicide, as well as the male suicide rate in this country. The overwhelming majority are middle-aged white men. They come from the middle class. They go through these courts. They get fucking churned up and spit out and left onto the streets with nothing remaining of them. All the while, the police are great protectors, will not enforce any sort of custody agreement, any sort of court order. You're going to have countless fathers being denied, and mothers, non-custodial parents, being denied access to their kids over the holidays. They use these children to weaponize their attacks against their victim. And frankly, it's inhumane that we're allowing this to continue. And as a party, we're not getting much more vocal about this. I mean, we're literally talking about, I ran for governor in 2018, and as a reprisal for running for governor, because I was so outspoken on this issue, they severed contact with my kids. I spent 20 years in the military, top secret clearance, reserve sheriff's deputy, haven't seen my kids in 2 years. Somebody fucking explain that shit to me in using some coherent terminology and the law.
Well, essentially, you're a whistleblower, right? You're a domestic. They think you're a domestic terrorist.
How dare you try to get your rights enforced?
Right.
So
Man, don't say the T word. You'll get us up. Look, let's expand this into military too. So I was enlisted, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it amounts to.
Right. Look, there are three types
I'm a
of
whistleblower.
This is gonna sound sexist as shit, and I don't fucking care. So there were three types of female soldiers that I encountered. Two types make up the majority, right? Those two types are, I'm only here to get knocked up by somebody because the federal government is going to guarantee that fucking child support paycheck. And then I'm going to go home and raise this kid. And this person's going to be deployed and never be part of the kid's life. So I'm never going to have to fuck with them. That was one type. And it was a very distinct type. And anybody who's stationed overseas will tell you pregnancy's in the fucking water, right? Because it is. So there was that type. Then there was the other type that was just there for school. But if they could get knocked up too and draw a check, that's great. Those were the predominant types of female soldiers that I encountered. Men who were enlisted, if you had a different experience, women who were enlisted, if you had a different experience, feel free to blow out my fucking DMs. But this is what I saw. Female soldiers who enlisted to do the work of soldiers were the minority. They were the minority, and you had to fight to be able to do your job because none of the men trusted you because everybody else had burnt them.
Oh, that sucks.
And I will tell you that is a contributor to military sexual assault. Anger, resentment, the need to be able to to feel more powerful than all of the things that lead to assault. That's a contributor. And that culture is just disgusting with this.
Yeah.
Single female soldiers who were in long-term committed relationships who would get pregnant, they're like poking at them at JAG, man. You got to get some child support. You got to establish this now.
One of the things that I heard, and I'm a musician, and I've worked in the restaurant industry for a while, but a young lady came into work and she was applying for a job, but she only wanted 20 hours a week. And my boss at the time said, well, I have a full-time job for you. She goes, yeah, but if I work more than 20 hours a week, I lose my benefits or welfare benefits. And she goes, this was her sentence after, and it was pretty much verbatim, is what she said was, having babies is like printing your own money. And this is the culture we're creating.
That's disgusting.
It is.
Kash has ties to Michigan, so he can back me up on this too. Years and years and years ago in Michigan, they had a 3-term Republican governor, John Engler. That was my first political campaign. I worked the campaign as an independent supporter. Engler planned this welfare reform plan, right? 5 years lifetime max. If you're drawing welfare, you must either go to a job training center where they're helping you write a resume and they're making you apply for jobs, or school.
Right.
The first 20% of what you made from work didn't count against your benefits, nor did the next 20%. And he did that to try and move people off welfare. Great program. It was working. Michigan was benefiting. Engler finishes his term. He term limits out. They shit can the program. And now look.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, Kash, if you can hear us, why don't we? And I don't know how much anyone really knows about Title 4D funding, and how that works. You want to explain that to him a little bit?
Cash, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you hear what he said?
It's coming now.
Okay. The miracle of technology.
Caleb, I might need to just like ask you the question and have you repeat it.
Federal funding?
Yeah.
Federal funding, yeah.
Yeah. So it's underneath the Title IV, what's known as Title IV-D of Social Security Act. There's actually two separate arms. This is really weird. I'm getting everything so delayed. So I'm just going to keep talking, and maybe everybody else will shut up while I say what I'm saying.
Well, mute your screen.
Specific arms of federal funding. So again, this is where libertarians come in and go, we care about this issue. We care about this because they're taking our money from us. They are promising that money is in fact going to be used for, I don't know, Social Security benefits or some other slush fund that they have told us about. But they're not. What they are doing is they are incentivizing the breakdown of our society by driving fathers out of the picture. There stands government gains here. How does government gain? When government forces the father out of the picture, they do exactly what you guys said earlier in making the mother more vulnerable. The father was there and was intended by either nature or God, whatever you believe, to be a protector or a provider. Or I'm sorry, both. Be a protector and a provider. Now, when you separate the protector-provider out of the picture, the mother then looks for another protector-provider. That's where the state comes in. The state comes in through these welfare benefits. They incentivize single motherhood. In order for them to gain said benefits, they will coerce, they will manipulate, and defraud this mother into believing that if she simply puts a man's name, any man's name, on that birth certificate, that she is going to receive these benefits, and it's really just for more administrative purposes, not telling her that they're going to use that man who probably lives at below the poverty line as a new labor force for the state. They will take that man, run him through a kangaroo court, and put him into a debtor's prison where they'll continue to make, now they'll double dip, because now they're going to get dollars for this incarceration process, as well as the dollars that are going to be received in Title IV funding, which is essentially a welfare reimbursement and collection program. And that's why you look in areas like Southside Chicago, East St. Louis, Atlanta, Baltimore, New Orleans, why you have 50 to 70% of African-American youth growing up in these single-parent homes. The the war on drugs is where it initially began. They incentivize it all with the welfare programs on top of it, and they're finishing us all off using these family law courts. And we must be concerned when we're not talking about ending absolute immunity, and the only talk of our town is that of qualified immunity. When a judge possesses the authority to take your kids from you with impunity.
Without due process.
Impunity and immunity. They enjoy both because they don't get punished for what they do, despite the egregious crimes, the inhumane crimes of depriving you of your children and your due process rights. Libertarians should be fucking up in arms. These are human rights violations transpiring underneath our noses. We should be flooding these courts. We should be documenting this. Our legal team should be in this. We should all be involved to begin protecting our citizens and our parents. And if you really want to win over the American people, take on this issue, go fight for their kids, go see what I'm talking about is 100% fucking correct, and you will see the tides change for the Libertarian Party. When we get off of these issues, and they're all tied to liberty, right? The ability to use cannabis if you want, gay marriage, if that's your thing, whatever, it's all tied to liberty.
And one of the things too, besides that Title IV funding, which he sort of touched on, is basically the federal government has incentivized the state.
I'm still listening to myself, but I've been done for 40 seconds.
To collect child support, because the federal government pays back the states in matching funding for child support, not collection dollars, but basically for their, what they spend in collection, they reimburse the state. So a lot of these people are getting paid their salaries through not only child support, but matching funds. So all that's doing is promoting less shared parenting and more child support orders. And they're finding fathers like myself, who's been fighting for 2 years in court. I see my kids every other weekend, and I saw them every other day until I broke up with their mom. And she wants to take it through court. So we have to go through court. And instead of my rights being protected, innocent until proven guilty, we've never gone to a criminal court. I have my kids every other weekend, no supervision. I've not been convicted of a crime. I can have more babies, which the state would love, because they probably hope I'll pick the wrong woman again and then pay for that child support. But I can be a police officer. I can run for president. I can open up a daycare. I could be a teacher, a doctor. I could be a gynecologist. I could do anything I wanted, but I can't see my kids more than 4 nights a month. For what? It's in order to collect child support. And she accepts Medicaid and other welfare benefits, so that we're a Title IV case, because my ex receives benefits in the sense of like Medicaid and
State
insurance and stuff like that.
There's more to that too.
I want to highlight
let's say you and John had some kids and decided to split up, right? And it's amicable, and you've reached an amicable, a joint custody situation.
Are we married or are we Larry?
You were married, right? Or even not, right? It doesn't really matter, right? So everything is amicable. You guys are both trying to work in the best interest of the kids. Yeah. John says to you, listen, you haven't been working. I want you to be home with the kids instead of somebody else. So I'm willing to supplement your income with this much a month. $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Let's make it generous and say it's $5,000 a month. He's going to support you at this level, and he's going to cover the kids' insurance. He's going to help pay for at least half of their activities. All this shit, perfect, amicable split. Everything's beautiful. But something happens, and you end up needing. Maybe he loses his benefits at work, something, and you end up needing to go to the state for some insurance for your kids.
Right.
The state will deny you those benefits unless you turn over collection of child support benefits to them. And the minute you do that, you're going to receive less because they collect a fee. There's a percentage there that goes to them for administration, and they can force this issue into court and decide that John needs to pay you more than the $5,000 a month.
Well, that's what we want to do. Like just those things you're mentioning and we're mentioning, Cash, that's new to Dre. Like if we told libertarians that pretty much the government steals children for profit, it's child trafficking by definition.
So because my first marriage ended in a somewhat amicable divorce. I mean, there was a parenting plan, but there was also, they had their chart with their calculations for child support. And we took turns. I mean, honestly, like he had her majority at first. I wasn't able to. He was a little angry about the situation. So anyway, but luckily we did not stick to our parenting plan. It was like, hey, she wants to see you. Do you have to, you know what I mean? It was
you cooled out and you didn't weaponize the state against each other.
Exactly. But the state was still there, and I didn't know that they were taking a taste.
Oh yeah, no, many times where the state's still collecting and mom is like, I don't want child support anymore, and they keep taking it.
Right. And I'll tell you something else. So like Chris and Cash are talking about the Libertarian Party should be focusing on this. And and we have these conversations all the time. People who are new, who are coming in, ask this all the time. What is the job of the party? And we will hear all the time parroted back at us that the job of the party is to elect libertarians to office, right? That is not really the job of the party. If you'll look at our bylaws, right, the purpose of the party is listed. I'm going to read it to you from the bylaws. And it says the party is organized to implement and give voice to the principles embodied in the statement of principles, right? Mm-hmm. We, the members of the Libertarian Party, challenging the cult of the omnipotent state.
Right.
That's our job. That is the purpose. And it lists 5 different ways that we're supposed to be doing that. Not one, not just electing people to office, but 5. Functioning as a libertarian political entity separate and distinct from all other political parties or movements. So to everybody watching who says we need to be more like the left or more like the right, fuck you, we can. It's a violation of our bylaws. Suck my whole drawer full of dicks. Let's get that out of the way. Number 2 is electing libertarians to public office. Number 3 is chartering affiliates. Number 4 is nominated candidates. And number 5, entering into public information activities, which is specifically what this is. So anybody who wants to push back and say that doing what Kash and Chris is suggesting is not the purpose of the party, fuck you. It is. It's in the bylaws.
Well, I think once we and I'll go ahead and go into it a little bit. Once we know the catastrophic effect of what this is doing, basically what this is doing, 25 million kids are growing up absent biological father. A lot of those fathers are in prison due to, drug charges and things like that. Then there's fathers who commit suicide due to being deprived of their children. For some reason in society, we believe that if you take children from a man, he'll tough it out, that men don't naturally have any inclination or they're not as nurturing or loving as a mother. So we can't rip a child from a mother because that would be detrimental. But a man is a man, so he just needs to work and suck it up. But the problem is these young boys are growing up either fatherless or they're growing up in poverty, because what's happening is mom is leeching off dad. Now dad, like, I could apply for welfare because she's taking half my income to subsidize the fact that she's not making enough money. So she's getting to have a pretty good income and a home, and this is my dad's house. Like, literally, I went from paying all the bills to living at my dad's house because they sucked off. Now they're sucking off 50%. They were up to 70% because they lied about my income in court without proof. The judge just rubber stamped it. And I'm a musician, and there was no evidence of what I was averaging out per year because I just doing it full time. So they took her testimony of what I said I made while we were together. And the judge is like, no, sounds good. Stamp. They had me making almost $5,000 a month, and I was making $2,500 a month. I went bankrupt in a year.
Cash, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, yeah. Is Chris still going? I still hear him here on my end.
He just stopped.
Yeah, I'll start talking since it's funny because he's still talking in my ear. This is extremely challenging for me.
It's fun.
I'm going to manage it. Chris brought up some great points really about the fact that he is living at his dad's house, and it's really brave of him to admit that, because there's many Americans who are going to be extremely judgmental of that and go, "Oh, look at this middle-aged guy who's still living with his dad." And admitting,
I'm here to tell the truth, man.
It takes a lot of strength to do what Chris is doing, to speak out this way. Hold on one second. To speak out in the way that he is takes a lot of courage, because these courts will, in fact, take more time away from you once they discover that you're speaking out. And these exes love to weaponize your social media against you. They will bring it in and say that he doesn't want to pay child support, right? That they'll come in and basically try and diminish your character and who you are as an individual because you don't agree with the outcome. Well, you should agree with it when it's so incredibly fucking lopsided, because the mother wouldn't agree to that. Would the mother agree to Chris getting every other weekend and her paying him $1,000, $1,200, $1,400 a month? Chris could afford a damn nice place. Because think, if he got to keep all of his income, so that means I don't remember what he's paying, like $1,200 a month. But yeah. So he keeps his money. So he keeps $1,200 a month in his pocket, and then she gives him $1,200 a month. He goes up $2,400 a month from where he's at right now. If the shoe were on the other foot, and give him full custody, let her have him every other weekend, and see how much that shit sucks. It's miserable to go these long periods of time not seeing and talking to your kids, not being able to hug your children or make memories with them, and you try and pack it all in every other weekend. And you cannot be a father that the children need and require to do all of the hard work of the parenting. You need to mentor them. You need to discipline them. You need to guide them and love them and do all of these things. The very joy of being a parent is robbed from you. And then they pour salt in the wound and say, oh, yeah, now you're going to turn over 40, 50, 60% of your income. And if you don't, we're going to run you through this kangaroo court and lock you up in debtors' prisons, just like they did to me in Lake County, Illinois, and then portray you as a deadbeat father. And as libertarians, we know how much they love to assassinate our characters. They fucking hate us. The Daily Herald did that day in and day out. And there's no love lost between me and the Chicago Times or the Sun Times or the Daily Herald. That is exactly what they do. They attack the character of the man or the woman, and by doing so, by proxy, they also attack the message of that individual, and they never have to address the message as long as they assassinate your fucking character, and we allow them to do it. We as libertarians should just be raising battle flags and going, you know what, enough's enough of this bullshit, right? Enough is enough. We have to come to the aid of our fellow, not just libertarians, but our citizens. If they saw us coming out in a real way and supporting them, they would jump over to the party. They would go, oh shit, these people are learning about this issue. And
this is about our children.
Let me go to that party. Yeah. Let me go join my local chapter.
Fuck, you know, that's great.
We can change the tide of this country and what's been done here if we believe in it enough in ourselves to actually commit to change and doing it.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of libertarian things about liberties and freedoms, and I'll get into some of the statistics of fatherlessness on top of what Kash just mentioned. You know, one of the things that I say, and hate me for this. So, you know, I got sober for a couple of years. I quit drinking. I was going through a lot of emotional stuff, and I needed to take a big break. I quit smoking cigarettes, and that's really as bad as anything. You know, I smoked pot when I was younger. It's just not my thing. Yeah, but one of the things that I did was I needed a clear head, and I'd gotten a DUI right at near the end of our relationship. I was coping with our toxic relationship with toxins, and it's not a healthy way to do it. So I sort of stepped away from it. But one of the big things that libertarians like to talk about is you know, our body, and I can put chemicals and drugs and this and that, and that's fine. But what I want to talk about is what makes people want to do drugs on a dangerous capacity, which is usually coping with trauma. Right. That's the biggest cause of addiction, is trauma.
Yeah.
What is the largest?
So many times.
Yeah. What is the largest contributor to trauma? Typically, our childhood trauma usually comes from broken homes. The government knows that. This is psychological warfare. They know that if you break down the home, you break down the individual. You break down the child. That child then repeats that trauma with the next, when they grow up and they have kids. And you're creating this cycle of fatherlessness that's really created things like behavioral issues, you know, addiction, teen pregnancy. Most of the men that are incarcerated grew up fatherless, or their dad was in the jail.
Look at current trends, Chris. So we are seeing, particularly in millennials and Gen Z, right? We're seeing a reluctance to enter into relationships. We're not talking just marriage, right?
Right.
For these generations, more so than any other. I mean, Gen Xers are kind of in there too a little bit. Situationships are preferable to relationships, and this is why, because they don't want to be part of perpetuating the cycle.
Right.
And this is the only way they see to push back against the tyrannical, overreaching, fucking centralized government.
Well, the other thing is if you broke up, if you grow up in brokenness, you're either going to stay away from everything and everyone, or you're going to repeat it and just it's going to be a new cycle of trauma. You know, I didn't grow up. I grew up. I had a normal family, had ups and downs. Childhood divorce. It was later on in my 16, 17. You know, nothing heinous. My parents aren't bad people. They did a lot of great things, and they did some human being things. But you know, my ex grew up with some other issues, and I guess I thought I was going to be the knight in shining armor,
y'all always do that.
Yeah, I'm learning that now.
Especially libertarian men. Libertarian men in your white knight syndrome.
I didn't know.
Like, listen, guys, the majority of the time, if there's a princess locked up in a fucking tower somewhere, it's for good fucking reason. Leave her ass there. They're fucking crazy. Oh, you can't fix her with your dick. Just stop trying.
So we talk about fatherlessness, which is a much greater pandemic than COVID-19. Literally, we want to talk about veteran suicides. Do you know? Look, he's on a delay.
Hey, Kash.
Veteran suicides, we say, are about 22 a day average. But Kash can contest. Kash didn't commit or try to commit suicide or anything because of war. He was never in a war. He was deployed on things. He was on submarines. He was in the military for 20 years. Most of our military doesn't have PTSD from battle. They have PTSD from, like you talked about earlier, was divorce. They're coming home to especially career men that are there more than 4 years or so. They're coming back to. I mean, it's hard on a marriage. And then if you throw kids in there, rightfully so. Sometimes people split apart. But when you're incentivizing a financial battle with children and brokenness and cheating, and then what's happening, like even with Kash, well, if you have retirement or you have benefits that are automatically coming to you, well, that's easy pickings for child support just to take that money right out of that.
That's why that was the goal. Get knocked up by an officer.
It's guaranteed.
Officer, they've got retirement coming, and you're going to get half of it for the rest of that child's life.
Exactly. So, what we're doing is, and if you guys, ever have the chance to look up fatherless daughter syndrome, and fatherless daughter syndrome is one of the catalysts for fatherlessness, because daughters who grow up without fathers look for their fathers in other men.
And I want to say,
men were,
I just wanted to say that's also the #1 cause of OnlyFans. So let's make sure to keep that away.
Hey, shut up. I depend on my OnlyFans.
So I mean, you talk about fatherless daughter syndrome and the yearning to have a male figure, this yearning to replace this emptiness. Guys, men are equally and in many ways more valuable as fathers, because statistically they've actually done a statistic. So it's roughly 84% of single parent homes are moms. 12% or so are dads, and the difference is either grandparents or foster care or something like that. The statistics that they did was that children tend to do better in single father homes over single mother homes. Now, the reason I'm telling you these things, these aren't my opinions. This is not me women bashing. I love good women. I love good moms. I love good dads. I love good people.
I'm curious to hear the reasons behind that. I'm dying.
So the biggest reasons have to do with the way a man nurtures. So a lot of the things, women are very protective. They're very nurturing and protective in a sense that they don't let a child take as many risks. Not all women.
Look, people were speaking in generalizations. There's always an exception to the rule.
Right, absolutely. And it also depends on, did you grow up with just your mom? Did you grow up with just your dad? So that plays a lot into what your opinion might be, or your friends, like the environment that you grew up in. So we're talking about overall statistics here. So of course there's going to be, like you said, it's not a one size fits all. Right. Dre, you probably see a lot of my posts with my kids on the weekend. Every weekend I have my kids. We do stuff, and I like to videotape it because I want to show them this. It's not for court. It's not to paint me as a good father. But I throw my kids up in a tree.
Sure.
I said to my son, "You ever climbed a tree before?" No.
Get up there, yeah.
I taught my kid how to ride a bike. He's almost 8 years old. He didn't know how to ride a bike without training wheels up until I showed him. There are things that dads do, and I'm not saying there aren't some great moms out there that don't.
Those generalities.
Yeah.
You're fine.
From an overall aspect, there is a reason that men and women have kids, and it's not so that dad can pay and mom can raise.
Right.
Men are supposed to raise children too. Men raise well-rounded daughters, and they raise well-rounded sons. And that doesn't mean that a bad man or a bad father wouldn't hurt. We're not talking about bad parents. We're talking about
there
good.
Are deadbeat dads out there that are actual deadbeat dads that don't want to take care of their kids in any way, physically, emotionally.
Yeah, but there are deadbeat moms out there too. There are deadbeat moms out there too, and some of them are still present in the fucking home, and that's just factual.
Well, deadbeat moms. A lot of the deadbeat moms are the ones who are collecting child support. They're deadbeats.
Sure.
They're literally keeping the kids from a loving relationship with a father for whatever their reason is. But that father, like myself, I'm a good dad. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm a great dad. I mean, I don't
know if that's fair. Not every good mom out there collecting child support is in a situation where they're keeping fathers because of state law, right? In a divorce situation, equality has nothing to do with the situation, and any divorce attorney will tell you that. It's not about equality, right? It's not about equal. It's not about fair.
It's about equity.
It's about equity. So it's about trying to level the field. So even moms that are out there saying, I don't want child support, they don't legally have a fucking choice.
Well, no, they have to apply for it in order to receive benefits.
Not
to receive benefits. In my divorce,
I know I have a friend who him and his kid's mom were like living together. Like they weren't broken up, they weren't married, but they weren't living together, and the state made him show up to court and pay child support even though it was going right to her bank account.
Right. And look, in my divorce 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, we have 100% joint custody. We're incredibly flexible in if she wants to be at his house more or whatever. We're really, really super cool about it. We don't stick to any court assigned schedule, but I did not have an option. Child support was ordered even with my objection because
what was the custody arrangement?
Income. It's about leveling the income. Even though we have legal joint custody, joint physical, joint legal custody, he still was ordered to pay child support.
Well, me and my ex make about the same right now. And the reason I had to take a pay cut, even though her attorney said that I did it on purpose to pay less child support, I worked in the restaurant industry where I worked 60 and 70 hours a week. I couldn't be a single dad then. Right. I did that to take care of my family. She didn't work very much at the time. So I did what I had to do to fill the role that was missing, just like she was at home with the kids. Now that we're not together, I needed a job that was more conducive with being a single dad. That meant taking them to school. That meant being available when they got off. That means being off weekends with them. So I had to find something that was less income, more quality time to be a single father. But apparently that, the courts want to say they want dads to step up, but I tell you what, when we step up, they sure push us out. Well, like to collect that money.
With us, I'm sitting there going, no, we're good. We're good. We're shared custody. Stuff. No, I had no legal option. And I didn't even get input into how much. I couldn't even come back and go, okay, $50 a week or $50 a month. No.
Well, see, that's weird.
That was decided for me. I had no voice in that.
It's not like that here in North Carolina. So states probably have different child support issues. But at the end of the day, like my ex could say, no, I don't want child support.
Cash wants to say, Cash wants to say something real quick. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cash.
Yeah. Would she just wait about the, am I good to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys have to forgive me. I'm actually wearing 2 pairs of headphones. I'll put on one pair over my other set that's plugged into my phone to hear you guys, but then there's like a 45-second delay before
Caleb, just tell him to mute.
So
he doesn't have to listen to the screen.
And the conversation piece about how you weren't allowed to
the radio.
It's because of a Latin doctrine known as parens patria, I believe is what it's called, right? And it's in fact that this doctrine would allow the state and the judge to exercise their authority, what they believe to be the supreme parent in the matter. The state does not have any sort of a compelling interest in the matter unless the child is in immediate risk of endangerment or serious bodily harm or mental or emotional abuse. But they have to prove that with a clear and convincing standard, and that's what these state courts will circumvent. They circumvent that that requirement that is set forth in their state statutes,
right.
And they will make themselves the supreme parent in the case. And despite anything that you worked out, right? And this is like normal contract law, right? This is an equity court, right? If you work out an agreement between you and the other person, who the fuck is the judge to overrule that? They do not know what is in the best interest of your child.
Right.
You and that other person know your circumstances better than anyone. And therefore, it is left to the parents to decide what is in the best interest of their kids. The judge, their job is to protect your constitutional rights from state overreach. They don't do that. They ignore the Constitution. We have listed out probably at least 10 or 12 different constitutional violations that are repeatedly violated in these state courts. It is a systemic fucking problem. It branches all the way over to our probate courts, where they use similar practices of assigning guardian ad litums to our grandparents or our parents, and then liquidating their estates so that it's never passed down. We are the working serfs in the United States. We are living underneath monarchs and fucking totalitarians up there who beat us about the brow with their gavel in their family law statute books. This is tyranny that we live in, and for us to just sit here and fucking passively, pass this issue down the road and say, it's just divorce court. It's just fucking disgruntled dads. That's all fucking bullshit. And you've bought it hook, line, and sinker. You're as complicit in these crimes in your community as the individuals who are directly doing it. If you sit here and you refuse the information being sent to you, and/or you don't even exercise the moral responsibility to fucking look it up for yourself, right?
Right.
At least do your neighbor and your brother or your aunt or your sister the honor of now listening to what they have been saying to you while you've dismissed them and ignored them. Now fucking listen to what they said and go support them, go help them, go court watch for them, and help them get out of this fucking mess by putting your foot down.
Right.
Sorry, my girlfriend just came in the room to see who was screaming at me on the phone, but we're good. So
Cash is passionate.
Did I get it all out there?
He's just passionate.
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
All right.
I'll address the ladies. Both of you have kids, right?
I have one. Aaron has multiple.
Hey, cool. So, as moms, I think moms are the biggest advocates to speak out for us and women in general. Because good moms know that there's bad moms out there doing this and using this system because they're having issues with their own traumas, their own feelings. They can't get over their own crap. This isn't about the best interest of their children. This is about control and money.
Yeah.
Look, my relationships with my children's fathers have nothing to do with my children.
Right.
My children have their own relationships with their fathers.
Right.
And unless my children are being abused, right, or harmed, those relationships are none of my fucking business.
Yeah. And we talk about false allegations too. I had my kids kept from me for a false allegation. My one son at the time, apparently I wasn't paying attention to the red flags. We wound up having 2 kids together, but we had broken up, and for whatever reason she was mad at me or whatever, vice versa, both. And she was not contacting me at all. And I said, I want to talk to my son. I want to see my son. We need to work out some sort of an arrangement. And I said, I'm not gonna say her name, but so-and-so, if you don't communicate with me, then I have to reach out and file a motion to the courts. I had no other choice.
Yeah.
And within 6 days of filing that motion, keep in mind, I haven't contacted with her anything over maybe a text. I got a 50B, which is a domestic violence, basically an order of protection put against me. She dropped it later on, but it basically was used to in case there was a custody battle, it was used to gain an upper hand, but it also kept me away from my kids until that hearing, which was
look, let's talk about how those orders work. You guys want to get into the nitty-gritty of dirty fucking weaponizing of protective orders? So here's how this goes, Dre. If you and you call me and you say, God damn it, John left the seat up and he didn't take the garbage out and I kicked his ass out and I need a protective order. If we're sneaky and manipulative and conniving, it's really easy. Like, we drive down to the courthouse and you say, he hit me, he scratched me, he pushed me against the wall. Right? They immediately issue a temporary protective order, and it's good for 30 days.
Right.
Now, you don't have to prove shit. You don't
Basically
have to
buys you time.
It's just your statement. It is
Right.
just your statement. In 30 days, you're going to go to court. And if you can't prove that, the court's going to charge you somewhere between $30 and $90 and tell you to have a good day.
That's it. For a crime.
So you got to fuck with him for 30 days and continuing, because now this protective order still exists. Doesn't matter that it was dismissed. It still fucking exists. And so we're going to question that. We're not going to trust him. And at most, it's going to cost you $90.
And she just filed a false police report and was willing to perjure herself in court if it went through and didn't get dropped. Luckily,
saying things you didn't actually do.
Yeah, look, that protective order process, they can stretch that out for up to 2 years on a temporary. They can stretch a temporary up to 2 years, and he won't get a hearing. He doesn't even get to go in front of a judge and say this is bullshit.
Nope.
This is covering your
say something real quick.
Cash.
Yeah, you just tell me when I can go.
All right, you're clear.
So we submitted Freedom of Information Act requests to multiple counties there in Illinois. And what we were requesting were the number of emergency orders of protection issued within a 3 to 5 year time frame, and any federal, state, local, or private dollars that went towards the administration of these protective orders. Now, I want everybody to keep in mind, this is the 7th largest state in the nation, and one of the counties that we submitted these requests to was Cook County, which is the the hub of Chicago, and each one of them denied our request and cited appeals court case law in Illinois that said that the judicial branch of Illinois is exempt from any Information Act request from its citizens. That should scare the ever-living shit out of every person that heard that.
Right.
That the judicial branch has exempted itself from FOIA requests. It exempted itself from these FOIA requests. They blame it on the legislative branch and say that because the legislative branch didn't specifically cite them in the statute. I don't know what that statute is. But that's what they use to defend this. Now, in the courts, so in Lake County, Illinois, for instance, where my case is at, I've had 3 protective orders issued against me. I finally got so pissed off after the 3rd one. I was still active duty military. All 3 while I was active duty military. I finally got so pissed. I marched into the state's attorney's office. I demand he press charges and give me a right to an attorney and a right to a trial by jury. And I want my day in court to face my accuser, because the days of marring my name and fucking up my career, I'm over it. And it was after that I ended up running for governor. That was that 3rd protective order was the straw that broke the camel's back. But there's no cameras in there. There's no audio recording equipment. In order for you to access the appeals court, you have to have a record. And many of these hearings, there's no transcript. There's no record. You have no idea what was, other than what was written on the piece of paper. Outside of that, you don't know in what other ways they violated your rights. What else they said? What evidence was introduced that you never got to see? What other accusations were made that you never got to refute? These are backdoor red flag laws. They drive contention. There is no evidence to support the things to actually protect women. And it's the same fucking line in every court, or when you ask any judge or attorney about these, they'll give you some sob story about a mother who was murdered at the hands of her boyfriend or husband, had sought out a protective order, and some shitbird judge didn't issue it when he should have. And that still happens every fucking day, because primarily they are desensitized to these. They go in and these get rubber stamped so often that actual victims are overlooked. Actual crime happening to domestic violence people is being overlooked, and the resources allocated for them are finite, and they're being dissipated by false accusers, and they should be charged with perjury and for trying to ruin somebody's fucking life. These are serious problems. I mean, these are serious allegations they make that ruin people's careers, and because they're civil, you can't get the bastards expunged.
I would just like to add that I hope Carla gets her kids before the aliens do.
What's happening?
The chemtrail lady in the comments. I hope she gets. I hope she gets custody of her kids before the aliens do.
Look, I mean, it's an interesting comment, for fuck's sake. However, I want to point out that there are a lot of people who hold all kinds of different beliefs on all kinds of shit, and that's not grounds for removing somebody's child.
Right.
Unless one of those bullies is sacrificing children or something, right? Or cannibalism, or right. That's not grounds for removing somebody's children. Religious grounds are not grounds for removing somebody's children. Mental capacity in most cases is not grounds for removing somebody's children. So if somebody has a low IQ, for years and years and years, it's individuals born with Down syndrome are being forcibly sterilized, right?
Right.
Would you say, like, I guess, like, how far do you want it to go as far as views? Like if someone's a Nazi, like openly swastika tattoos on their neck, do you think that would be?
There were a lot of people who were members of the Nazi youth during the Holocaust that didn't go on to commit mass murder or abuse their children.
It's not illegal to hate. It's illegal to hurt.
Right.
It's funny
because that was used against Alex Jones in his child custody case.
You could be a Nazi asshole and raise your kid however you want to raise them, and that's your prerogative. As long as you're hurting other people, you can have beliefs that are hateful. No one's going to be your friend except other assholes.
Down that rabbit hole, let's go down the rabbit hole of evangelicalism and how maybe that alters children. Let's go down the rabbit hole of any religion, for fuck's sake, and how that maybe alters children.
Right.
or the effects of fatherlessness, which is worse than having probably a jerk dad is having no dad.
I mean, that's more abusive than having a dad around that maybe like swears at you. So, I can't believe you left the fucking trash on the floor, right?
I want to hear about Alex.
I'd rather have a dad.
We all want to hear about Alex Jones' ex-wife before we turn this off.
I want to hear who the fuck married Alex Jones. Oh my
God.
God.
Just wanted to talk.
Look, man, like there's somebody for everybody. Every squirrel finds a nut now and then.
I found out when I
Alex Jones.
What's that?
I said I found out that there's somebody for everybody when I started working in tech, and I'd walk into the knock and there'd be this 350-pound guy, grease dripping off of him, white flakes all over him, and he's got a girl at home.
Chicks dig it.
Oh my God.
Look, there's somebody for everybody. I hope everybody finds love and peace and happiness. I hope that every child that is growing up in a home that's been separated for whatever reason has hopefully not only one positive male role model in their life, their father, but maybe a stepfather and a grandfather and an uncle too.
Never having that strong good male.
He has a good mom, a good stepmom, all that shit.
Cash wants to talk about Alex Jones' wife.
I'm not going to talk real in depth, about them because I didn't follow their custody case enough. I met her at a rally out in Washington D.C., a parental rights rally, and and she really just expressed a lot of the same things that we're talking about here in how these courts are operating. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that we're all human beings. We're all imperfect, and between men and women both, we're fallible. You're not superior in any way, shape, or form because you have a penis, a vagina, or whatever else. You're not superior. You're just as susceptible to harming another person based upon a variety of factors and influences. And it's the state court's job to protect those individuals' constitutional rights. And we have a constitutional right to raise our kids unimpeded by the state. They sure as fuck don't know what's in the best interest of our children when they're having cocaine parties off hookers' asses, and then subscribing to this idea that they're the moral authority over me. Not that I have any problem with either one of those things, but don't tell me I'm a terrible parent because I make my children do push-ups for discipline. Meanwhile, you're standing on the Constitution in front of me. You're openly violating my due process right, that of my children, and nobody's batting an eyelash around this. And Alex Jones and Kelly Jones, their court case, was in the headlines, as has been like Brad Pitts and these celebrities. I want to know when those fucking people are going to start coming out and going, hey, you know what? I don't think I should pay $20 million for a divorce and custody proceeding. I mean, how can some people get away with, like, I don't know, $200, and then it costs somebody else $20 million? It's not the assets, and it's not because they have a lot of the assets. It's precisely because they have money that they draw out the litigation on them, just like they were doing with Alex and Kelly.
Right. This is the system that is abusing people, continuously abusing people. And look, there's a huge difference between having your kids do push-ups as punishment as the kid of a former Army drill sergeant. I'm going to throw that out there because he cut the grass with scissors, right? There's a big difference there between that and having your kid do push-ups till they die, right? And we've seen that in foster homes. So let's talk about how many kids die in foster homes. You're saying you're going to pull them from their parents' house because maybe dad smoked some pot, but you're going to put them in a foster home where they're going to get raped, molested, stabbed, killed, robbed.
I saw a statistic about 88% of children that are trafficked come out of foster care.
That would not shock me.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
88%.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
The kids get lost.
And look, I get that there are people out there going, well, this doesn't apply to me, or I don't care, or this isn't.
You better hope it
in
never
my
does.
own personal bubble. You know what? You're next.
You could.
When they run out of fathers to go after, who's next?
I didn't think this would happen to me. I thought this was other people. I didn't know anything about this.
That's how it. Yep.
But now that I know, I'm going to be one of the strongest advocates. I'm going to be with Kash and with the Libertarian Party, and I'm going to push this issue in this party, and I'm going to run for office on this issue, specifically family law, child support, welfare, and talk about the systemic issues that fatherlessness is causing. This is one of the number one, if not the number one issue that we should be pushing. And I don't know how to convince the party, but I'm loud, I'm willing, and I don't discourage easily. So, that's why I appreciate you guys having us on the show to kind of get the message out there to libertarians and others that are watching. Anything else we haven't touched base on? I don't know how long the show is.
We got to wrap up soon.
Yeah. So, we talked about the federal funding, which is incentivizing the states to put profit over parenting. We talked about false allegations. We talked about lack of due process in the courts. We talked about the fact that Kash and I Kash hasn't seen his kids in 2 years, and I see my kids 4 days a month.
Chris in New York is fighting this and has been fighting this system. Adam's been fighting this system. If you're watching and you think we're talking about just a handful of activists pushing back, let me assure you, you are wrong.
Right. Yeah. And the problem is like you said earlier, if you think that this conversation doesn't apply to you, I bet you know someone that does. The divorce and custody battles are destroying human beings. Financially, emotionally, it's causing trauma, and we're seeing a cycle of it. Divorce is on the rise, out of wedlock births are on the rise. Behavioral issues are on the rise. We're talking about ADHD, anxiety, depression, all these things, suicide. We going back to the military. Those 22 veteran suicides, I wonder, I guarantee you half or more are due to divorce and custody issues from the military. And
yeah, I think 22 a day is a very low estimate.
Oh, sure.
Double that at least.
Sure. So, we touched on a lot of the stuff. Is there any questions that you guys might have that we could share with your audience on subjects that we haven't touched about yet about family law?
If people want to reach out to the victims of family law, where do they go?
So there is a Facebook page. I'm working on a website. This is a brand new thing. Literally, me and Adam Kokesh started this. He said, you know, I was dealing with family law issues. He goes, I want you to head a coalition for me, and we want to call it Victims of Family Law. I said, okay. And then, you know, when Joe got the nod and Spike, I jumped on with them. I tried to push it. Unfortunately, her campaign team wasn't all about it because it wasn't one of the top issues. And that's unfortunate because I feel like we could have done a lot better. Maybe we'll do it again in 4 years. I'll definitely run. I will run for Libertarian candidate for president. I know Adam's gonna run again in 24. But so Victims of Family Law is the Facebook page. There's also a group. You can go to Cash's pages, which is the Veteran Liberty Network. And Cash, just like with family law, he's talking about liberty. And he uses as a veteran who, you know, it's a good angle, we think, for those who want to talk about issues because they support veterans. We have a lot of veterans that are obviously like Adam Kokesh and Cash who are anti-war. They're anti-government. They're anti the system. They got to be intrinsic inside the system, saw how it worked, and they want to come here against all you know, abuse and criticism of fellow military and say, hey, you know what? War is not what we're saying it is. The government's lying to you. They're taking our kids. They're doing this, that, and the other thing. Stop fighting wars. Come home and raise your sons, and let's protect our own shores. So, you know, so Veteran Liberty Network has a Facebook page, and Cash can tell you more about his stuff. But yeah, go to Victims of Family Law on Facebook. There's a group and a page. You can go to my activist page, Chris Cole Activist, and Chris Cole for North Carolina. If any of your viewers are in North Carolina, I will be running for office as a libertarian, a brand new libertarian in 22, probably for state legislation, so we can push a equal shared parenting bill as a presumed beginning from divorce and separation. That means you have to prove that without a shadow of a doubt, if you need to take me to criminal court, then you need to take me to criminal court where I get a jury and due process. But until then, my rights are protected as a parent, and our children's rights are protected as well. Because guess what? The best interest of our children is their parents, especially loving, fit ones.
So, folks, if you like what Chris is saying, go to his Chris Cole candidate page, share his shit, send him some money, help him get elected. Caleb, you got some deets on next week?
Yeah, we got a holiday special next week, same time, next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Time. All kinds of people coming on. If you followed our election night live stream, it's going to be a lot like that. We're going to have people coming and going. Anybody from people involved in. What's that?
It's going to be a holiday extravaganza.
Yeah, and there'll be some different stuff, some new stuff, some funny stuff, some funny music, some funny stories, some funny skits. So, I mean, assuming we stay on agenda, which we might not, we might get high and forget. It happens. It's been great being back with y'all. We really want to thank Chris and Cash for coming on. Dre, you look awesome. Of course, everyone's assuming that you're nude there. She's not. She's just teasing you. But if you like that, subscribe to our shit. Every week. Share. Check out the new YouTube that's coming. Subscribe, send some money, sponsor us. Hit us up about advertising. We're open. We're back. We're excited. Hope you guys all had a good time.
Chris, thanks for having us.
Being on.
Cash, is there anything Cash wants to say?
Cash, I had to hang up. My phone about died. So if he wants to comment anything, I'll post it up here real quick. Otherwise, I got. I think we'll end it on that.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much.
Peace out, you bunch of schizos. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.